Welcome back to another exciting day of mathematics. Whoop, whoop. Warm up 24 is on the screen. Let's get started, please. Today we are moving on to the next session, so stay focused. For the warm up, by now you guys should be experts at number 1. You can talk about number 2, but number 1 should be a piece of cake. Copy and go. All right, shall we? So, number 1 says compute the measure central tendency and sketch a box plot. By now, I can ask anybody in this class, and they should know what they are, and you should have already found them. Being that it's Monday, I'm going to go over it one more time. First things first, I'm going to set this in order, ascending order, 1, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 13. From there, when the past gets back. From there, I need to find my mean, median also known as what? Q2, and mode. So, according to this, the mean, I need to add all numbers. So let's see, without a calculator, here I go. 13 plus 7, that's 20. 8 plus 7, that's 15, plus 5, that's another 20. So that's 40. 6 plus 6 plus 1 is 13, so that total is 53. Divided by 8, that's 6. Subtract, that's 5. Add a 0, bring it down. Fits in there 6 times. 48, subtract, add another 0, bring it down. Fits in there 2 times. So my mean is 6.62 approximately. I'm telling you. From there, the median. Median is right in the center, but since there's 8 numbers, I count 4 and 4. And the middle is about right here. So, what is 6 plus 7? 13 divided by 2, that's 6.5. Yeah, I did. There's 4 on this side, 4 on this side. 6 plus 7 is 13 divided by 2 is 6.5. Next, mode. What number repeats the most? 6 and 7. There you go. You have plenty of 6, 7 for the day, right? All right. So this is Q2. This is 6.5. Q1 is about right here, and that is 5.5. Q3 is about right here, and that is 7.5. So to create your box plot, we need 5.5, 6.5, 7.5. And of course, we need the minimum, which is 1, and the maximum, which is 13. And that's how you create your box plot once you get your number line going and so on and so forth. Yes? All right. Now, one of your colleagues said, Mr. Hugh, what's up with number 2? I said, well, you just draw your best fit line. Question, is that trend going downward or upward? Mainly down. It starts going upward, but it's mainly down. So that means we need to draw a line that's going downward. Now, let's see. Will that be a best fit line? No, because it's not even intersecting at just one of the points. So that means if I bring it down here, a little bit better. How about there? Will that work? Yeah, right, because it's going through a lot of points on the graph. So, with that said, I get my y equals mx plus b, y equals blank x blank. Now let me zoom into the graph just so I can get my numbers close to exact. Here we go. So what is my y-intercept according to what I drew right there, everyone? It's about 12? Yes, Mr. Q, it's 12. All right, good. So plus 12. All right. Next, I need a slope. That means I need 2 points. Do you guys see the 2 points? This one, and is it going through this graph right there? Yes. So that means it's going downward 1 step, and how many to the right? 3. So that means it's -1 over 3. So let me zoom out. Now, according to this problem, it says 30-year conventional fixed mortgage rates. Over here is percentages, and over here by years. So what does this mean? It means that you start off at how much percentage? 12. And then it goes down what? 1% every what? Every 3 years. All right. So there you go. Send me your warm-up, please. I want to see what you did. All right, copy the agenda. Warm-up number 24 is done. Today we're starting with studies. So I need you guys to stay laser focused because this is where some of y'all start kind of like drifting off a little bit. So stay focused. Tonight's home play 4 problems, and I'm confident you will finish them here in class once again. Once again, warm-up number 24 done. Statistics and probability, we're in the middle of that. And today we're moving on to studies, statistical studies. And tonight's home play, only 4 problems. Mia, and then you. Yeah, Mia. Okay, we good? All right, copy the code in case you don't finish in class. Here's the access code to the home play, LCZHE. LCZHE. Also remind your neighbor where's another place to go in case that code doesn't work. To the YouTube channel, go and watch the video lesson. It should come up right after that, which looks something like this. It's only 4 problems, only 4 problems. All right? So get a Cornell note ready, please. I can identify statistical studies. I can identify statistical studies. You don't need a fair model. You should already have it for statistics. I'll give you guys some time to set up your notes. With that said, our objective for today, I can identify statistical studies, also known just as statistics. But we're going to be looking at 2 different types of studies. Okay? All right. So before we move on, though, tell your neighbor 3 keywords for statistics. 3 keywords for statistics. All right. 3 keywords. Let's go with, I haven't called Kane in a while. Kane, 3 keywords. Woo-wee. Science, data, conclusions from the corner. Yeah, that is correct. So we know what they are. We don't need the notes. We already have the notes for that. However, today, like I said, we are moving on. Here it goes. I'll wait. Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Today, we're moving on to statistical studies, and we're specifically looking at 2 types, known as observational and experimental. So copy that diagram right there on your notes, please. Statistical studies, observational, and experimental. Today, I'm actually going to show you what they are, and you have to come up with the process and definition, just like we always do. But, of course, you guys need to stay focused. Once again, only 2 today. And today's going to be fairly simple. I didn't want to overdo it. I didn't want you, like, here's Whelm. I didn't want you over here. Yeah? Okay. So, statistical studies, what type? Observational and experimental. Okay, can you get the lights on, please? Appreciate it. All right, so here we go. Writing utensils down, you'll finish copying in a little bit, and let's close our Chromebook because some of you are a little bit too distracted with the screen. You're like the cats with the little string. You're like too distracted with that string in front of you. Y'all ready? All right, here we go. So, I'm going to go over statistical studies, two types, observational versus experimental. The first one, I'm going to start with observational. I'm not going to tell you the definition. I'm going to show you the process. So here goes the process. Now, me, Mr. Q, personally, I have this pet peeve with speed. I don't know if I mentioned it before. Okay. So, for those of you that don't know, especially those of you that drive already, let's see if you can follow. Let's say I'm coming from Walmart, and I turn and coming north, right there at the corner of 86, and then you see the subway, right? And then you see the golden yoke, or what's it called, broken yoke? Well, guess what? From there, you see a sign that says, "Welcome to Imperial," yes? Well, guess what? The speed limit from there all the way to here is 45 miles an hour. You're like, what? Yeah, 45 miles an hour. That's the speed limit. What does that mean, Mr. Q? That's the highest speed that you can get to. Now, earlier, some of your callers are like, "Mr. Q, but we can go above like 5 miles." No, that's why it's called the speed limit. I mean, you can go all as fast as you can if you want, but if you get caught, every mile above the speed limit is, I think, $25. So if you go 10 miles above the speed limit times 25, that's how much? $250 bill free that you're going to pay the city. Now, check this out. Now, was I always very nitpicky about speed? No. When I was young and I was crazy and a little bit stupid, not you guys, I'm saying me. I'm talking about me. Driving. I had a, let me see if you guys know about cars. I had a sports car, and it was an RX-7 Mazda, low to the ground, 1981, all black, tinted windows, chrome wheels, very thin wheels because it was a sports car. And then I used to install stereos and alarms, so I installed two 10-inch woofers in the back. It was one of those hatchbacks, and that sports car was the one where the lights, when you turn on the lights, they pop out like that from the hood. And then I had 6x9s on the doors in the back. I had it hooked up. So one time I was speeding from LA to the Valley. No, have you guys traveled that far before? You know that it takes almost 3 hours, right? Well, one time I made it to the Valley in 2 hours. That's why I was saying that I was crazy and stupid. Because if I would have gotten a flat tire, guess what would have happened to Q? Gone. Sports cars don't have a strong frame, so if something happens that drastic, the car becomes an accordion. So hopefully this is a teaching moment for some of y'all. But anyways, here it goes. I'm trying to make a point with the speed limit. I was coming speeding all the way through, and I got to Westmoreland. And I remember that in Westmoreland, every time that I went in, there was always CHP and also police officers nearby. So I slowed down. So as I was coming out of Westmoreland, all of a sudden, woo, flashing lights, pull over, and I'm like, oh snap. But I look at my odometer to see, if I was going fast or what. No, I thought I was doing good. So then here comes the officer, license and registration. So I'm all like, okay, very slowly. And then I got my wallet and I stopped because you were going 56 on a 55. True story. They gave me a ticket for going 56 on a what? On a 55. So I'm trying to make a point here, because earlier somebody was saying, Mr. Q, you can go 5 or 10 miles over the speed limit. Yeah, like I said, you can go whatever miles, or you're going to get a ticket if they give you a ticket. So anyways, they gave me a ticket for 1 mile over the speed limit. It is what it is. So with that said, here goes. Let's see. Do you recognize that? Look at it. Kind of. About that. Does that look familiar? So here, let me show you both sides at the same time. See if you recognize them. Isn't that by the airport, right? All right. So Mr. Q one day said, you know what? Here goes an observational study. Ready? I said, I wonder how many people speed through this section. What is the speed limit, everyone? 45. Okay. So here goes my observational study. Ready? First thing I did, I made a plan. So I got a paper, put on my clipboard, and I planned to take my chair, put it right here. I sat down, and for 1 hour, I started observing the cars that were driving by, and those that were speeding. I started writing down at least how many cars were speeding through there. Once I was done, after the hour, picked up my stuff, and I wrote a little summary as to what I saw. Okay? All right. That's an observational study. So, talk it over your neighbor. Let them know what is the process of making or doing an observational study. Talk it over your neighbor. All right. Thank you, guys. So, hold that thought. Some of you are like, this is too easy, Mr. Q. I know, right? So that is observational. Now let me go to experimental. Ready? So, to do an experimental study, again, I was thinking, I wonder how many people speed through there. Made a plan. I planned to take my chair. However, this time, I brought a friend with me. So think about it. Think about it. I'm there. Boom, boom, boom. Write my observations, my data. Wrap up. Say bye. And go and make my conclusions. All right? Talk it over to your neighbor. See what just happened different with experimental. Experimental. A what? No. I'm positive. No, if I'm on the street, it's not crystal. All right. So, with that said, Camila looks like she's got it. So, to get us started, Camila is going to give us a process for observational study. All right. What did I do first, Camila? What is it? I can't. Can you? I said down before I sat down. Yes. Yes, that's still part of step 2, sitting down. Yes. Okay. What is all that called? Help her out, Lali. Made a plan. Write that down, please. Make a plan. That is correct. I made a plan. Step 2, let's pass it to Kenny. Before Kenny gives us an answer, tell your neighbor, what would be step 2? What else did I do on step 2? All right, Kenny. So first, I observe. And 3, collect data. And we just need one last step. One last step. So you remember the last step. What do we do with all that data? Conclusion. That is correct. All right. Now, observational is just a tiny bit different from experimental. Only one step different. Here it goes. Make a plan. I'm going to leave this blank. From there, I observe. From there, I collect data. And at the end, I have a conclusion. However, experimental has a specific portion that's a little bit different. So, neighbor, what shall we write here? What was different on experimental? What was different on experimental? All right, looks like, let's see, I heard something very specific that is true. I heard bring a friend, but I heard a key word over here. Kenny, what is that key word? Brought in a variable. What was the variable this time, everyone? The police, is that correct? And the variable, here's a question, causes a reaction. What was the reaction that the police officer was going to cause him or her being next to me? People what? Slowing down. That is correct. Yeah. All right. We got it? So today I didn't want to move forward with more stuff. I just want to make sure that we get the difference from one to the other. Are we there? All right. So here we go. Before we move on, send me your picture of your notes, your copious notes. All right, shall we? So, here we go. Do me a favor. Turn your notebook over so like that you don't see your notes. Now check this out. Here goes a couple of questions. What is an observational study? What is an experimental study? So, without looking at your notes, talk it over to your neighbor. Let them know what's the difference between an observational study and an experimental study. What's the only difference? All right, looks like Mireya's got this. Very good, Mireya. She even raised her hand. She's like, I got this, Q. All right, let's see. Mireya, raise your hand. She's out. I got this, Q. Mireya, what's the difference between observational and experimental? I'm sorry? Ooh. Compared to the observational, which is only to do what? Observe. That is correct. Hands if you agree with that. All right. So let's see how well we got this. Here goes the situation. Look up. It reads. Look up, please. It says, what type of study is this? Mr. Q sits back and records observations and conclusions on the number of vehicles driving over the speed limit in front of IHS. My goodness. Specifically this morning, like I was getting my bag out from my truck and I felt the wind like right here. And then I turned, it was a black sports car, tinted windows. I'm like, my goodness, just to turn into the parking lot, really? Wow. All right, so, however, while being accompanied by a police officer, tell your neighbor what kind of study that is. What kind of study is that? All right, let's go here with Trin. What kind of study is that? Experimental, that is correct, because that's what's gonna cause a reaction. The police officer next to me. All right. Next, look up. Here goes another one. Nike does a study on how many pairs of Air Qs are sold over a weekend after they brought them out to the sales floor at the Nike outlet. Tell you what kind of observational or experimental study is that? What is that? Observational or experimental? All right, let's go with George. What kind of study is that? Observational. Hands if you agree with that. That is correct, because there's nothing that's brought out to make people change their mind and buy something else. However, what if I would have put comma and they had a sales of 50% off Air Qs? What would happen? That will create a reaction, okay? So, with that said, think about it. Make up an example of an observational study yourself. Think about it first. Don't say it out loud. What would be an example of an observational study? Think about it. If I was to ask you to make one up. All right, share it with your neighbor. What would be your observational study? Observational study. Be nice. You're good? Yeah. All right. All right. So, for the sake of time, let's see. I'm going to pick, let's go with Nick. What was your observational study? How many what? I'm sorry? How many red shirts? Oh, okay. How many red shirts did Mr. QC his students wore on Thursday? Okay, that's a good one. Now, question. Look up. Nick said, how many students did Mr. Q observe that wore red shirts on Thursday? Comma. How can I make that an experimental study? Talk it over your neighbor. How can I make that an experimental study? How can I make that experimental? All right. So with, who haven't we called on? I think we haven't called on Andrew. What can we do to make that experimental? comma, students that wore red shirts got extra credit from Mr. Q. Oh, snap. Yeah, that becomes experimental because then people are going to bring a red shirt on Thursdays. All right, so with that said, here goes the home plate for today on your screen. There it is. You have plenty of time to finish. You have exactly 14 minutes. Those of you following on YouTube, put in some work in here to practice. See you guys next time.